Hi guys, today we're going to talk about mud flood evidence. The evidence of the last mud flood that we had, the flood of 19th century. Supposed date varies from 1826 to maybe 1839, something like that. But we can still guess the correct date, and we can still question it because all this evidence is still not enough to prove the date of the mud flood. So let me screen share. I was wanted to show some pictures. Okay, this is was presented in one of my videos, and I want to remind you this fact because it's pretty obvious to understand. Well, we can have this map. This is Hungary, close to Hungary, Budapest. A place called Bucca Barani. And here they found those stumps. Those are stumps of the trees, and they are not petrified. And look how deep they were. If this was the cultural layer, just imagine this is about maybe 20 meters deep on the ground. And this is completely sand and clay, mud, and that's it. And underneath those trees was maybe a lake or something like that, because we can see some water, or maybe it's done due mining, because we saw uh, some mining techniques here in those pictures, and here they do the same. So those trees were standing on the water, some type of lake, or maybe a river bank. You know, some trees can be standing in the water and still growing. That's okay for some trees. And they didn't get petrified, although the depth of this thing is 30 meters. Maybe 20 meters somewhere. Somewhere we see a huge elevation. Yes, it's about 30 meters somewhere. And this is the area of water. So you can see it's a huge territory. And this down here is the lowest range, and that's where they found those stumps. Another view. And here you can see it's very deep, very deep. And we can see the layer of some, maybe this is what layers actually look like after the flood. So this is the picture of supposed flooding of this area. Supposed flooding. And those arrows show a possible way the water came from Baltic Sea. And here are the pictures of the same type of trees. See, they have the similar stumps, similar design. So okay, this is good enough for some flood evidence. And what else? We have pictures. Yeah, here. These are pictures from Kiev, Ukraine. So as you can see, the size of this second floor is pretty huge. If we suppose that the first floor was the same size, just imagine how deep this building is. That's another example on the streets of Kiev. Just the whole first floor is underneath the ground level. That's another view on another church. Here, the author of this picture extended the actual height, so we can like see that it is normal right now, and this is not normal here in the left. Another church. We can see almost 5 feet or maybe 6 feet underground first floor. 5 feet deep. Another building. Remember I told you about the brickwork. Look at the buildings with such unnecessary brick design. They may be from the time that brickwork was more expanded and advanced. So what is interesting with this building? You know, some windows are right underneath the ground, although you can see them. Here you have some type of a door, maybe. I don't know what it is, but it's interesting. Another type of building like this. Here we see the floor. Most of the buildings look like this, so this may be actual level of the flood when it's like going from this street and like turning after this house to the right, and that's why we see this like not equal level of the mud flood. Again, we see unnecessary thing, windows underneath the ground, which is very stupid to do. Another view. Another unnecessary thing. So this is another example of how could the mud flood possibly be. This is actual case of Iceland volcano ignition, and it actually ignited not only fire but a bunch of volcanic dust, so-called volcanic dust, and it was occurring in Iceland. And look how it looks. But in our cases, in the cases of Russia, we see not this type of dust, of course, but it's just an example of how it could have been if the mud came the same way. Why don't we have volcanoes with the mud? Because we have those volcanoes in different parts of the world. I've showed a video about that. So it can have like a dust and a gas explosion, and that dust was just the dust from the mud which was inside the volcano. Who knows? So if the theory of tsunami doesn't match quite correctly, because tsunami could occur but not in every place, or they could have been uh, I suppose to have more effect, but still people had survived. And so I don't think it was just like a global 300-meter wave. I think it was a directed wave to destroy the northern coast of Great Tataria, and to destroy the Siberian and Altai Tatarias. So because they were in the major provinces of Greater Tataria, the base ones, which had a capital inside of this province, and those cities needed to be destroyed. But this is just an example of a volcanic mud. Look, this volcanic dust right now looks just like mud, just the same as mud. Look at this. Just a couple of years passed and it changes to from dust to mud type of consequence. Just like mud, look at this. So it could have been happening this way uh, if we had mud flood volcanoes explosion, or the same situation with the tsunami, which can carry a bunch of mud on its way, because if the wave is huge after directed tsunami, uh, you probably have a bunch of mud carrying inside the water, and sooner or later it becomes very tight and heavy, so it can settle like this on those things that are on the way. Like, uh, if you throw some bottles in a river, return in a couple of days, and you can see they are covered with same type of mud design like those houses are. Another example of mud flood. These are the roads in France, and this is actual level of that kind of mud that I was talking about, the mud from uh, clay and sand. It looks more yellow type of, or brown type, and then black, which I was showing from volcano mud. So this is actual level, more than a human height somewhere. I guess the French people should uh, tell me, is it true that this is what I'm talking about? So they excavated the roads, I think, so they can go. So this is example how house can be found in this mud. Just you see a part of the house right inside this mud. This is close to Kremlin. This was called the Chinatown. Uh, in Russian it's Kitai Город, so not exactly what China really means, but It translates to English like Chinatown. So you can see these walls were pretty muddy here, maybe abandoned for a while because they look very shaken. Okay, and these are inside walls, and you can see those arcs like half buried here. Look at this brickwork here. Okay, and this is another view how they are really deep, those arcs. Look at this level of mud here. Those arcs supposed to be at least like this. Look at this. It's the same gates from another side where it did maybe the flow of mud was not taking this part very much. Or maybe they excavated those gates because they were in more use. Who knows? But those you see are not excavated at all. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah. Also, I wanted to show this. This is one of the churches close to Moscow. Maybe no, not so close, but like almost 100 miles from Moscow. So this is the actual level of excavation. As you can see, the people walking on the excavated part, and this color is the way it was before excavation. So it's like a couple of years after excavation. It's after research and stuff like that. They found all those graves underneath the ground and something else. I'll show it to you. So this is the actual level when it was. It looks like different construction than it's on top of this building. And they found a bunch of graves with this type of crosses on them. So like an ancient type of cross, um, which symbolizes something, definitely. And another one, like with this thing inside. And this type of cross also was on those blocks, on those graves blocks. And interesting writings. Look, they don't have spaces between the words somewhere. It's just long words. So you're supposed to read it somehow. So they were pretty stuck on grammar, as you think. Not very hard on grammar because they knew something that we don't know. They don't have to use dots and stuff like that. So that's what they were afraid of, those guys, and they also put those stones underneath the basement somewhere just to hide the evidence after the flood. Okay, let's see. Do we have any questions? Where did all mud come from? All the mud came from the north because it was frozen in the northern part. We can see it much because animals are still can be found in this ice and mud that is on the north of Russia, and some animals have even undigested food, fresh food in their stomachs. So the mud definitely came from the Arctic's direction. And as we know, most of the ancient buildings were aligned to Greenland, because even scientists, our science, mainstream science accepts the theory of magnetic pole uh, switching from time to time, and they also observe the movement of magnetic pole. And so some people have a theory that um, the last North Pole was in Greenland, and then it switched to the place it is right now. So we can believe it or no, we cannot believe it, but some ancient buildings actually aligned to the Greenland North Pole, so-called Greenland's North Pole. But no one ever seen it in Greenland except those guys who built those buildings. Why not? So this is not the point, but the point is, if actual tsunami was not made by explosions of some evil guys, maybe it was made by while this switch of this magnetic or northern pole was occurring, and it was like some, earthquake, maybe, who knows, and a huge tsunami afterwards. This earthquake uh, did it all. So why do they hide the information? Because at that time, uh, after the mud flood, the civil war occurred, and the guys who won the war definitely didn't wanna people know that how they did it actually. So they hide information, and they got control of the science. So they edited all those books, so it never like happened, and that's it. Because it's not okay when you make something up to tell the truth about something, because a bunch of people died. Maybe 90% of those people actually died of this flood, because we're gonna talk about evidence of filling the cities after the flood, and because we see pictures of empty cities, and after that we know that those cities were repaired. They had brand new roofs, which are impossible to repair the whole city just like that. So they needed just employees and guys who were taken from the rural areas, were concentrated in those cities, and made this job very, very fast, because they needed to clean things up. They needed to clean the streets, excavate this mud from the streets, and stuff like that. So it was like very hard job, because you have a city which is empty and needs to be populated with people as soon as possible, because no one wants to find it out that the whole city died, because it's not okay. And at that time it was like a curse. So if the emperor admits that he got this like God's message like this mud flood and stuff like that, and the whole empire dies, what do you think that emperor is gonna do? He's gonna clean up the history and think that that would be just fine, because all this history is just a deal. You gotta understand that everyone had sins at that time. Somebody was eating somebody, somebody was robbing and being murderers and stuff like that, robbing all those abandoned houses. Somebody was robbing the ones who are robbing the houses, and that's just the time that everyone was acting crazy, I think, because most of the people just drowned or couldn't have escaped from this mud, because mud is just impossible to move in the mud. I've showed that in a bunch of my videos, and I can show it one more time, but I'm sure you've seen that pictures. So, do you have any questions? Why did they hide mud flood? How they even can hide it? Don't understand. They hide it the information, not the mud flood. You cannot hide the mud flood. That's why we can see it, because it's everywhere. From the north to the south direction. So it was from the Arctic Ocean, Baltic Sea, and whatever. From the northern seas and oceans. Also, England could be possibly flooded from the Atlantics, because it's located in Atlantics. Who knows? Because no, I can see that the northern direction is possible, because animals were killed and frozen in the mud. This could happen only if it's in a northern uh, uh, it's a northern flow, because it can be very low temperature water, and if the freezing temperature is outside, like today, those places can handle -30, -40 degrees. If the northern pole actually switches towards those areas, they could possibly have this degree weather conditions changing immediately. So even animals couldn't have escaped this situation, and they were just, eating something and just froze in a second after they took this flow of flood on them. Because we see mammoths bones, we see many animals like bulls and stuff like that. So, any more questions, guys? Okay, so thanks a lot for watching. Maybe next time we'll be more specific on the mud flood and other questions. So probably it's the tsunami, or at least a volcano mud, which was spread through the gas and dust air explosion of volcano, just like those cities were that I've shown in Iceland. So it could have been like that, but the color is different, so we have to know more about it. But the actual tsunami is more possible, because we see the northern shore of Russia completely bombed with some carpet bombing. It looks like carpet bombs. So maybe someone did carpet bombing, and at the same time he could have, bombed the water inside the water or ocean and create a tsunami, directed tsunami towards south, from the north to south. And that 300-meter wave could actually reach Afghanistan, because even though it's a huge distance, but we see that Siberia is a valley which is very low to the sea level. So it could have actually happened like this. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, let's see. Century is 19th. The year is between 1826 to 1839, something like that. So we cannot tell the correct date, because we don't have much proof actually on the dating. It could be made up, so we can only guess, because we have like many little proofs, but not anyone is actually can be said that it's correct. They can be correct in but objectively we cannot say that. Good evening from UK. Good evening, guys. Philip, have you thought about how everyone could forget such a recent global catastrophe? If you die like 90%, of population dead, how can you remember? There's no way you can remember that. I was talking about it yesterday with uh, John Humanity. Maybe you should watch that part too. Croatia here. Hi guys. Masons hide it all. Masons are just like we are. They know nothing about it. They only play the game. That's what they do. Even though they are not in the front line these days. Thank you for sharing knowledge, Philip. You're welcome. Mass amnesia. Yeah, maybe mass amnesia because, you know, something is similar to when you have a stress in childhood, you forget about this thing, try not to remember. But although it affects you your whole life, you have this, weight inside of you, but you don't remember. And it's used by CIA intelligence services like that, so they can find your weak part from your childhood and stab you in the back with this morality that you had due to your stress in the childhood. So that's why we just forget it. Trauma-based mind control. Yes, trauma-based. If you have something strange and scary, and you were like it was your childhood, and your parents probably died because they probably gave you some of their food and were not eaten, and you survived. You waited till help came from the villages, from the upper regions who were on the hills and on the mountains. They eventually rescued those who survived the mud flood. Hi from Germany. Hi guys. Yes, if you're young, you won't remember it, of course. And although you will talk about it, you'll know about it, but you won't be in the mainstream. If you're not a historical specialist or any kind of writer, or maybe you don't have a painter talent, so you don't paint, how can you describe it to your grandchild who's never seen what you've seen? You cannot describe it because you never seen it, they never seen it. You only know it was, you don't know what it is because you were a child at that time. So how can you explain anything to your grandchild? Only with the word flood. So, and we saw those flood sighting of this word in some books. Belgium is present. Hi guys. So I guess there's no questions for today, so we're gonna move on to next topic, and maybe tomorrow have another broadcast. Maybe finally someone comes, or if someone comes today, I'm gonna make another one. So see you later. Bye.